face down near the mic, but I want to be able to see all of you and welcome you to tonight's North Salt Lake Commission or City Council Meet the Candidates evening. An opportunity for you to learn more about your candidates and help you in your making your decision. I want to also acknowledge that this is being moderated by the League of Women Voters of Davis County. The League of Women Voters is an organization that really focuses on empowering the voter, protecting the voters' rights, and making sure you have the information you need to make decisions and to be involved in your government. I want to thank our North Salt Lake City, our Youth Council, which is back here in the blue shirts. They're going to be running around doing various roles tonight, and I really appreciate that. I have at the front Ginevra Prothero, who will be filming our event. Ginevra will have this posted up on the LWV Davis Facebook site, and you'll be able to refer your friends and neighbors to that to review after tonight. And I have as timers in the front row 2 of the Youth Council, Catherine Forth and Cameron. I have to put my glasses back on, sorry people. Cameron Marks. You got your hands up? They'll be giving you, the candidates, cards that say the amount of time left and when time's over. Our format tonight will be to ask the same question of each candidate. You'll have between 1 to 2 minutes for your answers. And we also encourage those in the audience, if you have a question, if you'll raise your hand, the Youth Council will come and give you a card or pick up the cards. We'll try to include as much of the questions as possible, though you'll see I'll often try to combine them as a theme so that they have an opportunity to respond to those. Please silence your phones for this evening. And at the end of each question, if you would hold your applause until the evening, we will have an opportunity to thank our candidates. It'll just make our process go much quicker if you can hold those till the end of the night. We tried to bring questions that the League was aware of, as well as wanting to involve your questions. So we hope we try to hit as much as possible, but that's also why we have an opportunity for you to meet with the candidates both before and after the evening's events. And I would also like to have us all stand, and we always want to start and meet the candidates event with the Pledge of Allegiance. And our person offering the pledge tonight is, I just lost their name. Sorry, it's right in front of you too. Shane Ballard. Thank you, Shane.
Repeat the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first question tonight, of course, is the one where you just introduce yourselves. Let us know who you are, what made you decide to run, and what particular skills you bring to that position. And you'll have 2 minutes for this answer. Make sure you can see the cards back down there, okay? And I'm going to start with Manuel Delgado.
Thank you. My name is Manuel Delgado. I moved into North Salt Lake about 4 years ago now. Moved into the Ridgeview Apartments, and my family and I, we fell in love with the city. And since moving into the apartments and getting more involved, we decided we wanted to stay here a little longer, and we ended up buying a home that opened up on Main Street. The more and more that we participate in and experience what the city has to offer, the more that we appreciate it for what it is. It's a very special city for us, and because of that, I've been getting more and more involved. I've been on the Parks and Arts Committee for the city for about 2 years now, and I've been loving the opportunity to meet with citizens, getting to work with them, participating in events that the city sponsors and hosts for us as residents, and I've been loving that opportunity to connect and interact with the residents of the city. And as I've been doing that, I've been getting more opportunities to get involved. The city council position opened up, and I feel like it's an opportunity for me to take what I've learned in that experience with the residents of the city and be able to be a voice of the residents who are concerned with how the city is doing. Again, I have a wife and 2 kids, and we've love to raise them in the city, and I feel like right now a lot of important decisions are being made for the city, and I'd love to be part of that, to not only represent what me and my family would like to see happen in the city, but also what the residents of the city want to see happen. And I feel like the best opportunity to do that is to be part of this council and to represent the concerns of all the residents of the city. Thank you.
If you could just proceed once the next person comes.
Okay, my name is Stan Porter, and I've been serving on the city council for a long time. I started and actually elected first in 1991. I served 2 terms. I decided that was probably enough. I got off, but then they asked me to serve on the planning commission, so I served 2 terms on the planning commission. When that was off, then they were concerned about, we didn't have any trails in the city. Kay Briggs, the mayor at that time, came and asked me to start up the Parks and Trails Committee, so I did. And I really enjoyed that job. Served there for a couple of years and decided I better get back on the council because of some decisions being made about our Parks and Trails Committee. So I did get back on the council at that point, and I've been serving since. So this is my 6th term on the city council that I'm going for. During that time, I served as the chair of the Jordan River Commission, and I'm now considered the past chair, which is a position on there. I'm currently serving as the council representative on the Uniting Neighbors, council representative for the Military and Veterans Affairs, and I work with the Community Garden, although they do such a great job, I don't do a lot there. The other things that I've done, I've worked with the Davis County Trails Committee, the Shoreline Committee, the Transportation Council of Governments for Davis County, and Mayor Pro Tem. I'm 63 years old, and I raised my family here in North Salt Lake. I've lived here my whole life, except for a couple of years when I was on a mission, and lived in Bountiful. Anyway, I'd like to continue to serve for this is my last term, I promise. But I've done a good job. We put in a lot of parks and trails, and that's why I'm running again.
Hi, I'm Natalie Gordon. First, I want to thank Peggy and the League of Women Voters from Davis County. This is a wonderful opportunity that I don't know that we would have had without you, so thank you for doing this. My name's Natalie Gordon. We have lived in North Salt Lake for 20 years, raised our 3 children here. Our oldest is 23, lives in Bountiful now. The apartment in North Salt Lake was too expensive, sorry. Now we also have a 21-year-old who is going to Weber. He's just home from his mission. And we have a daughter who's a senior in high school. I've served on city committees almost since the beginning when I moved into the city. Mayor Dixon asked me to serve on the Water Rate Review Committee back in the day. And that was a great opportunity to kind of learn more about the city and where things are. I served 2 terms on the Planning Commission after the Water Rate Review Committee, from 2003 to 2009, and that was wonderful. It was a great opportunity to see the city grow and to have a voice in some of that development. I'm currently serving on the Planning Commission again. I also served on the Parks, Trails, Arts, and Recreation Committee that Stan was talking about, and then also the Parks and Arts Committee that Manuel was talking about. One of the things I'm really passionate about is making sure that our community is walkable and that, and also transit friendly. So I just want to say that the reason I'm running right now is because I feel like I have a lot of skills that will benefit the city, and I'm at a place in my life where I have more free time, and I really enjoy volunteering here at the city, and I love working with members of the community and getting to know them and understanding their concerns and their issues. So, thank you.
Brian Horrocks. I'm a current member of the City Council. My wife Linda and I moved into the city about 25 years ago, looking for a place to raise our 4 children. They're all boys except 3 of them. We've loved the community. I got involved back in the day on the Planning Commission. Same time Stan was doing it, and I also served with Natalie. When that time was up, there was projects coming online, and I thought, boy, I sure hope those happen. And at that point, I was encouraged to run for city council, something I never had thought I would do. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time on the council, and I've seen a lot of change in the city, a lot of growth, a lot of things I'm proud of. Politics is a Greek word, poly meaning many, and ticks, blood-sucking insects. And I think that is true in the case, except the exception to that is local government. Local government works, and it works well, because it's close to the people. My cell phone is on the website. People call me. We're accessible, and government that's close to the people works. And I'm very pleased for the support that I've received. Very grateful for this opportunity I've had to serve, and thank you for your continued support.
My name is James Hood. A lot of you that have known me for years and years and know me by JR. I grew up in the city, right over here by Hatch Park, up right off of Main Street. I've been in the city for every month of my life except for 6. I love it. I stayed here to raise my daughter. The reason why I ran 4 years ago was I was the youth council advisor, and Conrad Jacobson had chose not to run again, and he encouraged me to run. With my background as a political science major with a focus on local government, I have the background in the education of focus on local government. And so that gives me the tools to know kind of the understanding of what local government is for. We're here to provide good streets, and clean water, and pick up your trash. We're also here to help plan the city, and I believe that the master plan right now needs a redo. I love the city, and I want to continue to serve. The board assignment that I have right now is the best board assignment in all of the city. It is the youth council advisor. We have the best youth in the city. I'm also serving currently as the president of the Utah Association of Youth Councils on a 2-year assignment. The main thing for that president to do is to plan and execute a leadership conference every March at Utah State, so that 86 youth councils can come and learn how to be the next leaders and the next local government leaders. Again, my name is James Hood, and for those that know me, it's JR, and I ask for your vote.
I'm Scott Allen. My wife and I moved into Foxborough with our 2 children just a couple of years ago. And quite frankly, we fell in love with the city. The city is ideally located to reach anywhere and to do anything. And as in what I considered my run, my first thought was about my family and what North Salt Lake is going to be 4 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 and 30 years down the road. I want North Salt Lake to be someplace where my children can live here and stay here for the entirety of their lives if that's what they want to do. To be able to do that, we need to take a step back and to take a broad view of where North Salt Lake is right now as a city. Where does North Salt Lake fit within where does North Salt Lake fit within the county, and where does North Salt Lake fit within the city? And we need to take this broad view and ask ourselves, what do we want North Salt Lake to be? We need to be able to take in some of the problems and challenges that are coming from without, and be able to adapt and to plan for those. As a member of the City Council, I would bring that broad vision to every meeting, to every decision, so that we can make a city so that we can make a city that will be viable for my children and for other citizens here. And also, as I close my remarks today, I'd like to thank the League of Voters for putting on this event, and also thank all of you for coming out tonight. it's been said that the government that governs best is the one that is closest to the people. And the way that the way that the people get close to the government is by coming to things like this. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try to group a set of questions, the next couple around growth in your community. And I'm going to start with one that came up a lot. Housing is a complex issue. On one hand, we want housing that is affordable for our families to be able to stay in the area. On the other hand, there were several concerns about the amount of high-density housing currently in your area. So, do you think North Salt Lake is in balance currently on those two issues? And if not, in your position on the City Council, what would you like to see addressed around housing? And we're going to start with Stan on this question. And you will have 1 minute.
1 minute, okay, thank you. Back in 2011, 2012, we did the general plan for the city. We hired a professional team. We invited residents from the city, which we had several come to the meetings. The Planning Commission and the City Council. We worked on that thing until 2013. The plan calls for certain areas to have higher dense housing, commercial, along with that housing. And most of that's along the highway and around this area right downtown area. I still think it's a good plan. I think we're going forward. I think this problem exists throughout the state. We've got 2 million people coming in the next 25 years. We've had a plan in place. We're following that plan, and to be honest with you, it's touched me in a very personal way because it's affected me probably more than anybody. But I still believe in the plan, and I think we need to go forward with it. Thank you.
I am grateful to be on the Planning Commission right now because we are working with the council on looking at that plan and making sure that it meets the needs of our city. We're looking at the P districts, we're looking at the R120 zones, we're looking at duplexes and townhouses, and just checking to see what fits where. I do believe that we should have higher density housing along our transit corridors. I think it's just smart to put higher density housing along Highway 89, Orchard, and Redwood. I also think that we need to look at the nuances of each project and make sure that the project fits the neighborhood, make sure that the project's not going to affect traffic, and also make sure that the project's going to be someplace where our children would want to live. I think that my understanding of the current land use development and management code will help me be a good council member and help me continue to work on this.
I too support the general plan that Stan mentioned. A lot of thought and preparation went into it, but I also recognize that there's always unintended consequences, and I actually suggested that we review this general plan, take a step back and see how it's unfolded. We do have complex housing issues in the state. We don't want Tremonton to become the next area of growth and have to build 6 more lanes down I-15. The question is, are we in balance? I think we definitely are. Compared to our neighboring communities, we've got less high income or high density housing and so on. So I think we're looking at each project on its merit and going from there. Thank you.
First of all, as I said in my opening remarks, I am not for our current general plan. I think that the current general plan lacks quite a bit in putting high density into current neighborhoods. Is absolutely wrong in my opinion. We're tearing down and making old houses into high density townhomes, and I don't agree with it. Putting apartment complexes on Highway 89 is fine with me because that is where the mass transit corridors are. Putting them up on top of a small lane, I'm not okay with either. Housing costs, building all these townhomes and apartments are not going to lower the current townhome and housing costs. It's been shown that it's not going to at all. And so as we keep building, these new townhomes are out of marketability for those that they're actually marketing to. Thank you.
So the first question is whether North Salt Lake is in balance with the high density housing versus other things that we could be doing in the city. And I'd like to more narrowly tailor that question and say, are we putting the high density housing in the right areas? And in some spots we are, and in some spots we're not. And one thing I would like to do is to take, again, take a look at that master plan and to revisit it and see that there have been certain changes that have happened in the city that have been imposed upon it by economic factors, by choices of state legislators, and say, okay, look at all these changes. There's a sudden influx of population, people going into our north. There's other changes, and be able to adapt to what's happening now and be able to prepare for the changes we anticipate happening in the future.
I mentioned that when I moved to North Salt Lake, my family and I, we lived in the Ridgeview Apartments. I benefited from the high-density housing that is in the city. We've moved into a small home. We're going to quickly outgrow that home. One of the things that I would love to do is to be able to look around the city and find affordable housing. I do think that high-density housing is appropriate in the correct locations. One of my concerns has been the ability for the council, as representatives of citizens of the city, to be able to have some more control over what the master plan currently allows the council to control. As proposals come to the council, I feel like the code has the council kind of arrested. We can't represent what the citizens of the city want because the code that was made. And I think that is why we need to redo the master plan, take another look at it.
Okay. So along that same vein, was moved to that in the next 50 years, Davis County will double in population. And with that, besides housing, there are concerns with water, air quality, transportation, and many other things I'm sure you can bring to mind as well. How will you prioritize those as you sit on the city council in addressing those for today and for the future? And we're going to start with Natalie on this question. 1 minute again.
Thank you. One of the things that I was able to do when I was on the Water Rate Review Committee was take a look and see how the water rate encouraged conservation, which I think is important. I think we do, but we should continue to have good xeriscaping ordinances for people who choose to do that. And I mean good xeriscaping. Bad xeriscaping is not good. And I also really feel like we need to focus on our transportation corridors. And I really am enthused with the relationship the city currently has with UTA. I think we're going to get more bus routes. We're going to get them more often. And we're also going to get bus rapid transit, which I think has been a huge help in the Provo-Orem area, and I think it will be a benefit for our community as well. One of the nice things about some high-density apartments and townhouses is not everyone that lives there is going to have a car, and they're going to be able to use UTA. I was able to use UTA to and from work today. So I think that's a great option. Thanks.
I mentioned transportation earlier, and I think that's a major concern. One of the things that is frustrating is our location, our proximity to Salt Lake City. We are affected by what happens upstream, if you will. Every community north of us that makes planning decisions, that will affect us and affect the traffic that comes through our city. Water is critical, obviously, in the west, and we've done some great things to ensure that we'll have plenty of water going forward. And I'm pleased that we firmed that up. Did you give me the stop at 15 seconds?
15 seconds.
And with that, I lost my train of thought.
one of the biggest issues on the transportation is our east-west corridors. One thing that I'm proud to say is the current council has already authorized a study to be done to look at putting a bridge over the railroad tracks on 1100 North. And so with that bridge, that will totally improve our wait times, and hopefully people will use 1100 North, which a lot of people call 2600 South, more than what they use Center Street now. If we have a bridge over there, I believe that more people will use it. And so I think that's one of the main things that our current city council has been looking at is the transportation on east-west corridors. For the airport of the part of the question, I totally believe that we need to be able to breathe our air, and we need to have healthy air. And so I think as a city council member, we should be the lobbyists for the city and for the residents to our state legislature to help improve the air wherever we can, whether that is, however we can do that.
Water and air, they have no real boundaries. And for that reason, I think we can do a lot as a city just within our own boundaries to try and encourage better water usage and encourage having better air quality in some of the industries and businesses that we have here. But the other thing that I think we should look at in greater detail and make more robust is to create, is to join up with other cities in the region and encourage cooperation to deal with these problems like air, water, and traffic. And I'm with James here when it comes to that bridge thing. I actually just got stopped on my way here by a train. Had to wait there for it was about 5-10 minutes, and there were people that hadn't been waiting there for 20. And we really do need to take this another big picture look at what's going on, what's going to happen, and work with cities in the region to deal with the traffic, the air, and water problems, so that we're not just fighting this fight on our own.
Yeah, I feel like these are vital issues to address now as the city continues to grow. Transportation is one that's interesting to me. I don't think I'd be able to get to work, to my work, to and from work, on the current transportation system. I think that's something, as a city councilor, I would love to work closely with UDOT to find a solution, to hear from other citizens in the city, to hear what can be done, how will residents actually use the transportation. I find it a little hard to imagine not being able to live here without a car, and so I think that's something that we'll have to address now as the city continues to grow. With air quality and water, I think someone suggested the role that the city council can play in advocating with the state legislature, and I think that's something that as a city council we should be doing.
I know everybody's concerned about water and air, and we all talk about it. Somehow we think it's the big refineries and it's the big plants, but generally if you look at the studies, most air pollution is us driving our cars back and forth to work. Now, one thing, there's a whole section in the general plan talking about transportation, and the reason that talks about putting high density along the highway is because then we can get the mass transit coming down the highway, and then people can get to work and back from work without using their vehicles and polluting the air. Water's the same way. These high density housing units use a lot less water than our big yards and our nice green air space around our house. So again, part of the solution is stuff that a lot of people say they don't want, and they think it might cause a bigger problem, but the studies and the general plan talks about these things, and I'd encourage you to read it on there, but I think we'll be fine. Thank you.
I had a few questions submitted, which I'm going to try to make a single question out of, but to highlight them is around the conditions and whether businesses are being held to the conditions of their business permits and licenses, the perception that all of the businesses are leaving the old communities and moving into, that Foxborough is getting all of the business, and also whether, how that comes together then for planning for your tax base. Business is a big part of city tax bases. So kind of come up with the question of what are the business concerns, the concerns with businesses in North Salt Lake you have coming on the city council, how will you prioritize and impacting that? And we'll start with Brian, and it will be 1 minute.
Thank you. It's been said that generally speaking, the city loses money on a residential house and makes money on businesses. And so it's important to attract that a good business base to any city. I actually work downtown and constantly am dealing with the Salt Lake City Council. They're not business friendly. I hear repeatedly that North Salt Lake is very business friendly. I think we do a lot of great things to attract business. And I think our staff is excellent in that point. And it's very important. Retail is dying, so we need to attract other businesses, and we've done a good job of doing that.
Yeah, so we just had a proposal to bring in a lot of warehouse space down on Railroad Road. That warehouse space is going to be an excellent source of income on the tax base for North Salt Lake. I may have wanted something else there, but what I think we're going to get is something that will divulge our tax base a little bit bigger so that we can have a little bit more broad. Retail is dying. I work in the new retail. I work in a delivery industry. And so I think that attracting more delivery companies would be helpful as well in order to have that tax base. So those warehouses that ship out will be paying sales tax as well. The other concern on Foxborough, I'm glad that we have Lee's, and I'm glad that the smaller business out in front of Lee's are starting to fill up. Supercuts is getting ready to open here soon.
You know, I believe I've mentioned to various people while I'm walking and even here that North Salt Lake is being faced with certain changes, certain problems. And as we talk, we often come to realize that some of these problems present their very own solutions. One of the problems that we will have to face in the future is the inland port and what kind of traffic that's going to bring to this area, touching on the last question. However, this also provides us with an opportunity. As the city council, approved warehouses, and we're so close to the inland port that we may be able to take advantage of some of that. We need to start thinking differently about how we approach businesses. Retail is dying, but there are other opportunities to be had here. Salt Lake City is going through a tech boom. There might be opportunities there to siphon off some of that and then put it into North Salt Lake so that people who work in the tech area can live here and work here and travel and not have to pollute the area with their cars.
My wife teaches piano here in North Salt Lake. We rent a studio in the E District building, not too far here on Main Street. I would love to see more of the service-based businesses come to the city. I'm not a huge fan of the look and feel of warehouse space, though I think there has to be a place for that. I would love to see the Highway 89 corridor be feel less like a giant parking lot, and maybe attract some family-friendly business. I would love to walk from my house, grab a bite to eat, and enjoy the city. And I think that we have an opportunity to do that here in North Salt Lake, to attract the right kind of businesses to the city.
Again, I refer back to some of the planning that we've done. All the things that we're putting in, the town center, which is kind of across the street, and up here where the bowling alley used to be, and also down where Hughes used to be. All these areas, yes, they do have some idea in housing, but they all have some commercial retail space going in all those. So just so you're aware that we'll have a lot more than we've had in the past in this general area, so people can make it a walkable community. Those businesses, not sure what they're going to bring in at this time, but Also out on the west side, as James mentioned, there's actually a new kind of concept out there where they don't just warehouses, but these are gonna be offices with warehouse. So people will be putting their business in there. Again, I run my business out of my house now. I used to drive to Salt Lake, take gas, pollute the air. I can sit in my office and do everything I need to do now. So I think that's the other option that we've got coming on.
I have some concerns about the dichotomy between not wanting high-density housing, but wanting more retail opportunities. And I think the reason that Foxborough is slowly filling in, I mean, there are still 4 pads outside of these that aren't full yet, is because the high-density housing's out there. And I think that as we work towards transit corridors that have some higher density housing, we'll see more retail opportunities. And we need to be smart about that. But I also want to make sure that the community is walkable, and that people that want to walk to the grocery store can, and that people that want, you know, to walk to the haircut place or the soda shop are able to do that. And that's not everywhere in the city yet. So I think that's another thing we should look at when we're reviewing the general plan, is see where areas would make really great sense for retail and maybe areas where they wouldn't.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to some parks and recreation kind of questions, which are going to be fun for you, huh? So the first one is, there's several demands for park improvements, including improving the Foxborough wetlands, so you could touch on that a little bit, developing pickleball courts, expanding Hatch Park, and repairing the current equipment. What are your priorities for parks, and what are your thoughts on funding these alternatives? And we're starting with James on this.
Great, thank you. So we're thinking outside of the box as a city council, correct? But currently, in order to get pickleball courts, we've looked at putting them at Hatch Park, taking the tennis courts and changing them over. We've also looked at Mathis Park. Currently, we're actually talking with the Utah Athletic Center down just on the other side of Legacy Highway, and see if we can do a public partnership with them. And they seem open to it. We just need to approach them and see how it would actually work, and we might be able to have our own pickleball league. The Hatch Park expansion is something near and dear to my heart because I live directly in that neighborhood. When it happens, it needs to be done correctly, and it needs to be done with the input of not only the citizens that are around it, but with citizens throughout the whole entire city, to see what actually is needed to be in that park. It's going to be a great park. It's going to be right here across the street.
You know, we really need parks and recreation. That's going to become more particularly, that's going to be more particularly felt the more high density housing that happens, so people have a place to gather as a community and to participate in physical activity. And I love that the city is trying to create a public-private partnership for pickleball, that they're trying to improve these kinds of facilities. I'm very much in support of that. One thing that I've heard a lot about is making sure that we have a dog park. There aren't a whole lot of those. I've heard it quite a bit in the Foxborough area, and I would support a project like that so that people have a place where they can walk their dogs, and so that they can enjoy their time there. Thank you.
I've mentioned I've been on the Parks and Arts Committee for about 2 years now. I've really enjoyed being part of that committee and see what goes into making the decisions that are made around parks. I would say it's a safe bet to say that our #1 priority has been safety throughout the parks. Whenever we look at different options on how to spend money on parks, safety is always the #1 topic that comes up, the issue that we try to address. We were able to improve the turf that's in Legacy Park down in Foxborough. And again, we considered all the options. We looked at what the costs would be, and I feel like we came out with a good solution that was cost effective. And looking ahead, I think that the city has a lot of great opportunity to get input and involvement from the citizens in making these decisions. I think that's one of the opportunities that I've loved about the city is I was able to volunteer to give the input, and I was given the opportunity to discuss these issues with the city.
Oh, I love talking about parks because that was one of my passions. We built a lot of wonderful parks, and I was able to work with a lot of wonderful people. Wild Rose Park was one that I'd worked on for years. First park was the Deer Hollow, is what we call it now. It was our first park I worked on. It wasn't much of a park in the beginning. It looks wonderful now. Tunnel Springs Park, the Legacy Splash Pad Park is what we all call it. The Jordan River. I've been working on the Jordan River Commission for these several years, and I hope to be able to continue to make that quite a resource, so we can use that for recreation as well. Also, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail hasn't been completed yet, something that we're still working on, and I'm still part of that. So I think it's an important part as we increase density to make sure we have lots of open space and places to go. And the wetlands in Foxborough is on the plan to complete that area.
One thing that I love about the way the city has looked at parks in the past is that they've tried to kind of put different amenities in different places in the city so that people from all over the community will go, up to Tunnel Springs to hike, or, to Legacy for the splash pad, which I don't want to brag, but was totally my idea. And ask them, it was. So,
Well, it was not as I.
it was my idea. And before I lived there too. I don't want you to think I lived there and then put it in. But I think that that's something that's important, is making sure that our parks bring our community together and that our recreation opportunities bring our community together. And I have also promised people that I will look for a great place for a dog park somewhere. I also would like to see us get maybe a branch of the library and, more opportunities for recreation in the city. I don't play pickleball, but my son wants to join a league, and so I think that would be great. Just more opportunities.
Unfortunately, I'm at that age where pickleball is more attractive than it used to be. And I've been really bugging the city staff about the need for pickleball courts. So that's a high priority. I absolutely fell in love with the Foxborough wetlands design, and of course that incredibly expensive. We need to go outside our city for funding, and they're working on that. When I first ran for city council, if I heard something more than anything else, it's why don't we have parks? Why don't we have parks? And as Stan alluded to, we have built a lot of parks. I think I counted 12 since I've been on. Very proud of them. Hatch Park is our next major thing. It's part of this whole city center. We're trying to create a downtown, a walkable community, a place that is the center of our city. And Hatch Park is a big part of that, and it'll be wonderful.
Okay, so there's also Eaglewood Golf Course, which is not self-sustaining. Is that just what has to happen with golf courses? Or do you expect that you can influence that and make a change in the coming years? And we're going to start with Scott on this one.
I tell you what, I love golf. If I had the time, I'd be golfing every morning at 6 in the morning at some golf course or another. I've taken my 4-year-old twice now to Eaglewood Golf Course, and I think there are opportunities for golf. And one of the things that I've seen is that the way to get more golf revenue is to get people into the game earlier. And one of the things that I would like to encourage is maybe encourage people to come visit the golf course, to try it out, to bring their kids to it. Because I tell you right now, my son, he's 4 years old. He has his own little teeny tiny set of clubs. Oh, he's 5 now. He just turned 5. He has his own teeny tiny set of clubs, and he asks me almost every week. He says, "Dad, hey, when can we go golfing?" I says, "Not this week, son, because it's 40 degrees and it's too dark right now." And I think with that kind of idea and plan, North Salt Lake could make Eaglewood work without any kind of outside influence. Thank you.
I don't feel like it's appropriate for any part of the city to lose as much money as the golf course might be losing right now. I do feel like there are opportunities to find a solution to that. I was excited to hear that the city put together a commission or a committee to look into possible solutions to help the golf course be more self-sustaining. I also think it's important to note that the golf course is more than just a golf course for the city. The city uses the golf course for a lot of events. A lot of the July 4th celebrations happen up there. We have a car show that involves the golf course. I feel like it's a city amenity, so I do feel like some expense is appropriate, but to be losing as much as it does, I feel like I'm glad that it's getting the attention that it needs to be getting now. And I feel like as we work together with the citizens who have all the stakeholders of the golf course, I feel like we can come to a solution that works.
Well, I was in the beginning with the golf course, and there was a lot of opposition to building a golf course up there. Most of the opposition was because a lot of people didn't feel the city should put up money for the golf course. The decision to build Eaglewood Golf Course was made based on the fact that the developer kind of had us over the barrel. If we didn't build the golf course, this whole area would have been annexed into Bountiful. We would have still had the traffic coming off the hill with none of the revenue to ever take care of the traffic lights we put in since, and so forth. But Eaglewood's become a real part of this city. It's a landmark that needs to be looked at from a financial standpoint, but it also needs to be looked at from an open space and a park standpoint, and the people that live around there, they love their backyard, so to speak. So it's a complicated issue, and that's why we formed this committee that I recommended.
I love the golf course, and I have never golfed in my life. I love it to walk along. I love the 4th of July and the car show, and events up there when someone's rented the clubhouse. I think it's an important part of our community, and I think we need to figure out how to manage it better so that we can not lose as much money on it, and we can continue to have it an important part of our community. I had some friends yesterday who complained to me because they went one day in July after work to go hit a bucket of balls, and the course said it's 5:45, we close at 6. Well, if the sun's out till 8, why aren't we having people stop on their way home from work to hit a bucket of balls? So I'm glad the committee's looking at stuff like this. I want more citizens to tell us how they think it could be better, and I think it's a problem that we'll be able to solve while keeping the community feel and then the amenity of the golf course.
I live on the golf course, so it's near and dear to my heart. I think it is a great amenity for the city. I am concerned that the trend we've been seeing is not positive, and so I think it was appropriate to step back and look at, is there a better way to do things? I feel comfortable in saying that there will be changes. I don't know what yet. The committee will bring recommendations, and but we recognize it isn't sustainable. Having said that, we subsidize all the parks. The splash pad is very expensive to run, and so it is another amenity in the city, and it's important that we make it less of a burden and more of an asset, and we're working towards that.
As Councilmember Horrocks just mentioned, we subsidize all of our parks. We go from talking about parks in the last question to talking about the golf course. The golf course is just a big park. So if we're going to have a specialized park with pickleball courts, with a splash pad, why can't we have a specialized park and a golf course? Not everybody plays pickleball. Not everybody goes and uses a splash pad. Not everybody goes and plays golf. But it is an amenity that is the most beautiful amenity, I believe, in North Salt Lake. If you go up and you're up on the golf course, right about sunset, there's not a better picture at all. Do we need to look at how it's funded? Absolutely. Do we need to find ways to fund other activities in parks? Absolutely. And I think our city staff is doing a great job currently at looking at that. This committee that the mayor is chairing currently I'm excited to see what they bring to us.
Okay, we're gonna make it exciting for our timers and do a 30-second question. Exciting for you too, huh? I think you can do it easily. The city owns valuable acreage to the west of Tunnel Springs Park. What do you think the city should do with this property? Keeping it to 30 seconds should make it go well. Okay, Manuel.
Sure. I would love to hear the input of the citizens, the residents of the city. I think that's a great opportunity to go out and ask the people who live close by what they would like to see, and to get that answer from the residents of the city. I don't think that me, as just being someone who happens to live on Main Street in the city, who doesn't have as much of a stake in it, I think I would love to hear the input from the people who live around it.
It was going to be our cemetery until we discovered that there's a lake underneath that whole area up there up on the hill. We have talked about just exposing that lake and making a nice little fishing hole and a nice part of addition to the Tunnel Springs Park. That's one of the options. I have heard options about people wanting to develop it, which is I've kind of been opposed to in the past because of the fact that it is our land and we have a lot of control over it. I'm sure the residents up there wouldn't be real happy. Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't watching the signs. I really feel like this is a great opportunity for the city to decide what they need. And we have a lot of needs in our city. You can't play soccer up there, it's too windy. You can't play pickleball up there, it's too windy and your ball will go off the edge. But I just think it's important for us to talk about it and to get great ideas. And maybe we don't need to do anything now. Maybe it's something we can sit on for 5 or 10 years until we have the best idea and the money to do something fabulous.
I too like the idea of making some kind of a water feature pond and a walking trail around it. My wife and my dog walk it all the time. And to have an expanded park that they could walk around would be a nice amenity. We have been approached by developers. There is a little bit of a temptation to, boy, we need money to do some other things and we could sell this property. Plus it would increase the security in the park to have houses, but I don't think that'll go through right now. Thanks.
I think we have a great opportunity to have a regional park in not only Foxborough, not only here in the city center, but a huge regional park up on the hill. And I think having a regional park, and for those that don't know what a regional park is a huge park. It's one with the greatest acreage. And so you can have a lot of amenities. And I think we have a great Parks and Trails committee that would give us an idea of what the citizens are asking for. So I think I would like to see what they would recommend before I make any decisions.
Scott.
Yeah, so the question is, what to do with that particular area? And right now, I think I'd like to echo some of the sentiments of the people here and maybe take a wait-and-see approach to see really what that area needs and what the citizenry wants to do. The proposal of developing that area makes me more than a little bit skittish because the city has already dealt with one particular soil subsidence issue, and we don't want to have another repeat because of water.
Okay, another 30-second question, and this has to do with how decisions are made, but how do you feel about the Planning Commission being able to make decisions for the city without being brought to the city council for them to vote on? And this will start with Stan. Again, we're talking 30 seconds. So.
Okay. This is kind of an easy one because a lot of planning, they think we have a lot of power and we can do a lot of different things. But one time the council did have more power, but it really didn't give us as much opportunities as people think it might have. Zoning laws, a lot of them are set by the state. And the state brings it down, and so if all we're doing is rubber stamping or arguing about something we have no control over, I really personally think we could maybe look at that again, but the recommendations of our city attorney and others said that the position we're in right now is probably the best.
As a planning commissioner, I don't agree that the planning commission can make decisions that the council doesn't have to, that just the council has to live with. I believe that the council passes the zoning ordinances and the planning commission is required to follow the zoning ordinances. Another thing that I think is wonderful is when council members meet with citizens and developers to work out problems and make developments better, like Councilmember Baskin did with Orchard Grove. I think that's really important, but I don't think it's a planning commission issue.
Both great comments. We have a development committee, a safety development committee in the city. They meet with developers, they review projects, they make sure it's ready to go to the planning commission. When it goes to the planning commission, that process is in place. And again, these are citizens in our community. They're not strangers or people we've hired. And they review that. When it comes to the city council, our job is really just to make sure all the processes have been followed correctly.
First of all, I want to respond to something that Ms. Gordon said. The Planning Commission absolutely does grant conditions that the City Council has to accept. The City Council is your voice as citizens, and the Planning Commission is appointed. The Planning Commission should not be making conditions that the City Council cannot override.
No, I'd like to echo what Mr. Hood says. I think that the City Council needs to have significantly, maybe not significantly more power, but they do need to have control over what happens. As again, the Planning Commission isn't elected. The City Council is. We are the voice of the people, and as the voice of the people, we need to be the ones that deal with it. And how we deal with that, maybe the City Council needs to take back some more control if that really is a concern, or we just need to have better communication between the Commission and the Council.
I would say perception is reality in this situation. I feel the perception is that the council has been arrested in the decisions that they can and can't make. And I feel like, I mentioned it before, I feel like any opportunity we have to adjust city code or zones so that the council can accept, reject, or make amendments to proposals, I feel like that is what the question is getting at. Thank you.
Okay, so another 30-second question, and this is maybe a little complicated. I think you can give us a quick overview. There's currently an application for annexing a large project west of the Jordan River into the city. Do you support this annexation, and why or why not? We'll start with Natalie.
I think it's too early to say whether or not we support it because it hasn't happened yet. Salt Lake County denied it last week, so right now it's stopped. But it's not for the city's consideration until it makes it through Salt Lake County's system, and it hasn't made it through yet. When it does make it through, I look forward to looking at plans, seeing if they meet the needs of our city. I think it's a crapshoot right now.
It certainly isn't something that we went out seeking. Our approach was, if this is going to happen, it will affect our city more than anywhere else, so we would like control over it. As of right now, it is not going to happen, and I think it's a dead issue.
A couple of weeks ago, the city council members and the mayor and the city manager were invited out to tour this area. As the only member of the current city council that was able to be at that meeting and tour it, I think I would support part of it. And the part that I would support would be Crossy Ranch coming into our city. If we could provide them with the services of sewer and water and give them an agriculture tourism zone that they could use then to become a Wheeler Farm kind of thing that up here, that would be wonderful.
No issue really is truly dead. I attended the first meeting. I took some time off of work to do that, and then I read some of the comments. And it seems like it's still an open question as to whether it could be brought back to life. And the fact of the matter is you're right. This will affect our city no matter what happens. And we need to coordinate with all of the stakeholders now. That would be Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, the airport, and the citizens in that area to make sure that whatever happens there, whether or not North Salt Lake has direct control over it, to make sure that we are protected and that we don't have to bear the burden and and not have any benefit?
I would support it if more control was given to the city council to decide what to do with the land. I feel like that's the part that's scary as residents, is saying this land is going to be annexed into the city, but you have to use it a certain way that residents don't have any say in. So I would support it. It's not an issue right now, but I would support it if there was more control given to the city council to decide how to use it.
I kind of agree with Brian on this. I've worked with the people in Salt Lake County on the Jordan River Commission, and even when this was brought up a long time ago, I didn't think it was going to go very far, and I still don't think it will. But nonetheless, Cross Sea Ranch looked for a large grant so they keep their operation going. They were hoping to get that. They did not get it. Hoping to sell some of the land so they can keep the operation going. That might not happen now. So I do feel bad for that, and I think that we do need control over that area if we ever have that opportunity. It's not there now, though.
This is back to a 1-minute question, and it has to do with our values we place on the high priority of keeping our children safe. Safety issues can range from physical safety to the mental health and bullying to drug use, gun violence. What role does the city council play in increasing the safety of our youth? And we're going to start with Brian on this.
Thank you. You know, we've looked at, we actually have a safety committee in among the staff of our city that reviews things. We've added sidewalks in various places, especially on the west side in the Orchard area. We're currently doing one on Orchard right now, bringing children to the Orchard Elementary School safer. So it's a big emphasis. We're always looking at that. Recently, I attended a suicide prevention seminar that was quite interesting. Mental health is a huge issue. If you look at our suicide rates in our state, it's a hockey stick, which is quite troubling. And one of the things I learned was that the highest group is elderly men. And, you know, we have a committee that meets once a month, and we reach out to them too. Thank you.
Children's safety is of the utmost importance, and I'm so glad that the current city council was able to find money to be able to put in sidewalks on the east side of Orchard Drive, so that those students that are walking from the new apartments over here, what I like to call the sand pit, can have a safe place to walk all the way to Orchard Elementary. I think our staff is very conscious about children's safety and bringing us ideas on how we can be more able to serve the children and to keep them safe as they walk to school. A lot has to do with the school board though, and I think that would be more of a question on how to keep kids safe in schools would be a good question for them. We can help support them by supplying a police officer if we have money in the budget in order to supply that school resource officer.
The issue of childhood safety is one that affects just about every level of government, everything that we will think about or do. It's like Mr. Hood said, when it comes to safety in school, that is primarily a question for the school board, but we can work with that school board to help them with whatever they need, whether it's supplying a police officer. Another thing that we could do is work with other cities and work with the school board for suicide and bullying prevention. I know that there is a Safe Kids Utah app or something along those lines that can help. We can encourage the use of that with our citizens, with the parents, and really help to develop, encourage the development of programs like that. And when it comes to the sidewalks, I'm very well pleased with a lot of the sidewalk and the expansion that's been happening, so that our kids can be safe as they travel to
First off, I would applaud the city staff, current city staff, and the police department. I have felt safe in my time living here in the city. That's one of the things that we love about the city, and I feel like that's something that will continue. I hope that's something that will continue. I mentioned earlier that as part of the Parks and Arts Committee, we value safety greatly. When we see proposals for new, fun, opportunities at parks versus replacing and repairing old structures, we gravitate towards prioritizing the safety of current existing parks. That's something that we look at all the time. We want the parks to be safe for our children. I have a 5-year-old and an 8-month-old or 9-month-old now. I care about their safety. One other thing that I think that helps with the mental health is having events and opportunities for the citizens to come and connect with each other. I feel like that connection is vital to mental health.
Well, safety is one of the key roles of any local government, and that's why we pay a lot of money to our police force, and we continue to do safety. Safety of children just ups that, and so there are the things we've talked about. The sidewalks, which is something we do, but the mental health issue is something that really the city has not been involved with very much. My wife, for years, had the Denali program over at the high school, and it's something that we certainly could look at doing more with, because it's in the committee idea and having communities get together and those type of things is one of the key issues, but that is one of the big problems we have today, and we need to address it. We haven't addressed it a lot in the past as a city.
One of the things that I do in my day job as a school trust specialist at the State Board of Education is work with the school community councils. And each school community council in the district and the charter schools is responsible to have both a digital citizenship plan and a school safety plan. And I really think the city could do a great job in partnering with the schools to make sure they have the resources that they need to make these plans. The high school is required to do a suicide prevention night. How can we work with the high school to make that more successful? I really feel like these community partnerships will strengthen our schools and our city and will help our kids be even more safe. I mean, my kids grew up here and I've never questioned their safety, but I have noticed that sometimes they're anxious or sometimes they're spending too much time on their screens. And this is something that the city can help with.
Okay. A couple of questions about your job performance as a city council person. I'm going to start with James on this, and we're just going to 30 seconds, so this one will be pretty short. If you're a current council person, can you talk about the meeting attendance you have held, and if you're not, what you're committing to, but also just comment on whether there should be an expectation for attendance at meetings, and that's James.
Yeah, 4 years ago, you elected me to do a job. That job was to be here every first and third Tuesday, and I have not missed a meeting in those 4 years. I believe that I'm the only current council member that has not missed it. Now I understand if there's family vacations and stuff like that that pulls you away or emergencies, but you elected me to do a job 4 years ago, and I have not missed a meeting. I believe that in the next 4 years I would do the same.
You know, if I were to be elected to the city council, the only way that I'd miss would probably be due to some emergency or health issue that would prevent me from coming. And the other thing is that there are opportunities now with the technology that we have to even remote in. Even if we don't necessarily have a vote, we can at least sit there and listen into the issues and speak our own voice, which I would be which I would encourage very much. So that if there is a family vacation, we may have time to step away. Because I can tell you, my kids aren't going to be up at 6 or 8 p.m.
I would commit to being here for all of the meetings that I was voted in to voice the residents of the city, and you can't do that if you're not participating in it. So absolutely, my commitment is to be at all the meetings, and I'm grateful, like Scott pointed out, that there's technology available, so if I happen to be away or out of the city, I can still participate and be that voice for those who elect me.
Over the years, I've missed very few meetings, and I have attendance meetings electronically that are important, and I feel they are. There are a few meetings that I have missed. I do remember one time I had my appendix out, and I sat and looked across the street thinking, well, if I could take a shower, I would go to the meeting, but they told me not to take a shower, so, you know, there are times we can miss, but the important thing is, do we spend the time to prepare for the meeting, because oftentimes I see council members come, and they have not read the agenda hardly, so it's...
I have served on the Planning Commission, and I have rearranged vacations to attend Planning Commission meetings, and I've also missed a few Planning Commission meetings. I missed half of a Planning Commission meeting last month because my husband had surgery and my daughter had a parents required or you can't be on the swim team meeting. So I went to that really fast, and then I drove here really fast, but still safe. And so we all have busy lives. My family right now is in a place where we can make sacrifices for me to attend meetings.
I think in the 12 years I've been on the council, I've missed 2 meetings. One of them was I didn't understand the whole process of getting a colonoscopy the next day. Anyway, I don't think it's an issue. We've got very good people. They attend the meetings, both Planning Commission and City Council. And there's commitment. We're committed.
Okay, we're back to a 1-minute question. We'll be starting with Scott. How will you personally reach out to residents for their input? And does North Salt Lake provide enough opportunities for residents to give their input?
So, you know, as I've been running for city council, I've knocked on probably I've knocked on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of doors. I've dropped thousands of flyers and spoken with hundreds of different people. I will, as a member of the city council, I'll always be available to speak. And one thing that we can do to encourage that is to have an even better online presence, and we do a pretty good job of that so far. And the other option is to maybe expand some of the noticing requirements, because right now it's 200, 300 feet when it comes to certain development decisions, and I think we can expand that so that our citizenry can be even more more involved and more informed.
The short time that I've been running for city council, I've been excited to see the involvement of the residents of the city. I've received several emails, phone calls, text messages. I feel like in this day and age, there's no excuse as to why we can't be accessible to the residents who elect us. That's something that's really important to me. And some of the feedback that I have gotten is concern of not being heard by the city council, and that's something that I value greatly, and that's something that I commit to making myself available, and not only hearing what residents have to say, but listening to them and making decisions based off of what the residents are saying.
Well, this is a good question, because over the years, I can see that being on the city council, especially during certain times, is a big time commitment. Where I have my own business and the way I run it, I can spend the time that I need to. You know, the couple of meetings a month I have to attend, it's during the day, and other meetings, and then meeting with people. I've always offered to meet with people. Sometimes people don't take me up on that, though, for some reason. They decide that maybe somebody else would be better to talk to, I guess, because they don't agree with my position, perhaps. So I've always made myself available to talk to people, taking my Saturdays and my weekdays to go around and talk to people when there's an issue that requires a decision that's going to be a really hard decision. I want the residents in a particular area to be informed, to understand what the decisions are.
I just want to say I know that what Stan just said was true, because I know that we've had decisions that we've had to make, and he's gone and knocked on doors in neighborhoods to ask them how they feel, and I admire that. I think we need a council that's collaborative. I think we need citizens that feel comfortable approaching the council and sharing their concerns. We have some citizens that show up to every meeting and let us know what they're thinking, and it makes a huge difference. We need to make city council meetings and planning commission meetings a place where people feel comfortable. And we also need to make sure that we're listening to people people. And like I tell my kids, just because I don't always agree doesn't mean I'm not listening. We're not always going to agree, but we always should make sure we get the input that we need to make a decision that's best for our community.
I was going to make that point too. I hear often that I went to city council and they just didn't listen to me. We listen all the time, but maybe we don't agree. If there's an issue that's very divisive in the community, and 5 people show up at city council and they're what we call pitchforks and torches, do we interpret that as 25,000 people are okay with going against these people? So ultimately, you elect 5 people to vote for you. It's representative. And you hope that they vote the way you would vote. I just wanted to mention a little bit, the city goes to great effort to communicate, and my wife is involved in that role. We text, we tweet, we Facebook, we send out, we're trying to communicate all the time. Thank you.
So one thing that I committed to do was to check my email a couple of different times a day to respond as soon as possible to residents with their concerns. Sometimes I have to call the city manager and get the correct information if I don't know it at that time. That's what I committed to 4 years ago. A lot of people have told me that sometimes I'm the only one that responds to them when they send an email. Sometimes people just want to send an email out to get something off their chest. Don't expect an email back. But I feel that if I respond to an email, that they know that they're being heard. And so that's what I commit to going forward for these next 4 years if you vote me in again. I will respond to every email that is sent to me.
Okay, your final question. I'm going to give you a minute to think about what we've talked about this evening and remember those, or think of those things maybe we didn't ask that you think are important to differentiate you from, or things that you maybe wanted to clarify a little bit more. That'll give you a minute to do that. And while you think about that, I'm going to remind people of election information. So October 7th is the last day to mail in a paper voter registration. You will start getting your mail-in ballots October 15th to the October 22nd period. So look for those. Encourage those, you're a community of a lot of people moving in. Encourage people that you know moved into your area to ensure that they have registered to vote, and they can check their registration and make sure their address is correct by going to vote.utah.gov. It's a great way to do that. So I'm going to start with Manuel, and again, you're going to sum up this evening from your perspective.
Sure. Well, I do want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. It's a great opportunity to meet the residents in person. I feel like that's a very valuable opportunity, and I enjoy that. I care very deeply about what happens in the city. I have a lot of stake in what happens in the city. Raising my family here and being involved, I want to be a part of what is happening and these important decisions that are taking place right now and that are coming before the city council. It's also really important to me that the residents who do reach out to the council feel like they are heard. That's something that, to me, I mean, that's the whole reason why we have the opportunity to elect those who serve in our city. And I think my passion for caring about the city and listening and hearing is something that I can offer to each and every one of you.
My thoughts are, as we've been running this campaign and going through it, is that, I've never been a politician. I've been a servant of the community, something that I'm very passionate about. I've attended the training sessions each year that are put on by the League of Cities and Towns. I've spent a lot of time and passion with our parks and our trails and any issues that come up. I try to listen to everybody. I don't agree with everybody sometimes, and they get upset at me. But this has been my city. This is a place that I care very much about. I'm not trying to move on to the next station in life as a representative of the state or some other political position. I did not get a degree in political science. I'm not a career politician. If you think you can make a career out of being a city councilman, then I think you need to see what we're getting paid, because it would be a tough career to live by. So, thank you.
Thank you, League of Women Voters. I love North Salt Lake. We lived here in 2 different houses because when we moved, we wanted to make sure we stayed in North Salt Lake. I don't want to sound weird, but I feel like we were led to live in North Salt Lake and by Providence's hand, and that we're here for a reason. I think I have a very particular set of skills that will serve the city. I lobbied for 5 years for state PTA, so I know my way around the legislature. I currently run an office that distributes $82 million a year, so I understand fiscal responsibility. I work on committees and boards, so I understand how to collaborate. And I talk to my neighbors and my friends, and I make new friends, so I know what the city and their citizens want. I love North Salt Lake, and I want to do whatever I can to just help it continue to be the best little city in the world.
Thank you to the League for hosting this. I'd also like to acknowledge the other people running. It isn't easy to put yourself out for public office, and I commend you all for doing that. I guess I'd like to just say that the city is in great shape. We are fiscally responsible. We try to get a lot of bang for the buck, and we don't raise taxes. We try to get a lot done while watching the bottom line. It's moving in the right direction. We've done a lot of things to improve the city. We've won national awards for our city. Personally, I try to weigh every issue. I try to come to the meetings with my mind still open as to what would be the best, and go from there. Thank you.
I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for coming and moderating this, and I want to thank the Youth Council. Again, the Youth Council is the best youth council in the state, bar none. We have the best youth in the city. For the last 4 years, every quarter, I've been talking to all 3 county commissioners about getting a library. The library superintendent just retired. We have a new library superintendent coming on. Now is the time that we as citizens, and us as city council members, can put more pressure on the Davis County commissioners and that library superintendent, so that we here down in the south end of the county are next. We've been hearing it for years, that we're next. We haven't been. I love this city. I want to continue to serve. 4 years ago, you elected me to do a job, and I've been doing that every time I've been coming to city council prepared. I do have the degree in local government. I know what needs to be done.
Thank you again to League of Women Voters and to everyone here in attendance. North Salt Lake is facing problems, as we always will and we always have done. Some of those problems are within our control, like making sure we have the right kind of master plan that our citizens want, that the city needs. Some of which aren't in our control, like what the state has done with Midland Court. And a lot of what we are doing, and a lot of what we need to do, requires a regional focus and a broad view to work together with all the stakeholders and do what needs to happen. And that is going to require a lot of work. And then being a member of the city council will require a lot of work. And just for this election, I've put in a lot of work to speak with the people about what they want and about what they need. And as a member of the city council, I will continue to put in that work, to put in the mental work before every meeting to make sure I understand the issues and I understand what the people want, and to put in the work at the meeting to hold people accountable that need to be held accountable. Thank you.
You all have been very attentive and very kind and very committed to being a good citizen. Thank you for coming. We're going to give a round of applause to our candidates. They are correct. It is 5